I knew the update was wrong before I saw it. You can tell when a room you've been in 1,000 times is pretending to be itself. The fluorescence above our heads hummed a little too perfectly, a sine wave so clean it felt like it was being calculated. The cinder-block walls of room 214, our science classroom, wore a faint grid under the paint, like someone had skinned the building with a texture map overnight. Posters I'd stopped seeing years ago suddenly demanded my attention. The periodic table, world map, lab safety cartoon. Their edges weren't fuzzy anymore. They were brutally sharp, cut with an invisible knife. When I blinked, I swear I saw pixels settle. "Bro, you glitching?" Evan whispered. He slid into the seat next to me, hair chaotic as always, hoodie strings chewed, a grin that had gotten us both in trouble plenty. He bumped my elbow with his. "You look like you just read the ending of a book from the middle." "The walls have a grid," I said, quietly enough to hear my own breath. He smirked. "All walls have a grid. That's what school is." Mrs. Andrews clapped twice to get our attention. The clap came back hollow, like it happened in an empty stairwell. "Chromebooks, please. Today we're piloting a new learning module." She smiled too tightly. Her lips twitched at the corners, a gif that didn't loop cleanly. Around us, 30 laptops woke in a staggered chorus. Mine booted to the district login, then flickered. For a fraction, one frame. The Roblox logo flashed where our school crest should have been. Not the normal logo. Redder, with a squared hole in the O like someone had drilled reality and left the bit smoking. I glanced at Evan. He had gone still. Kayla, front row, had her hands lifted over her keyboard like a pianist refusing the first note. A ripple of whispers went through the room. "Mrs. Andrews' smile didn't move, but her eyes flicked to the supply closet in the corner. The door was cracked. A green glow leaked around it, Roblox spawn pad green. My stomach did a slow, cold turn. The login screen took my password and dissolved. A new window bled through like a bruise forming. Classroom Update V1. 0, Early Access. Under it, in cheerful font, "Press E to begin." Evan said. "Do we begin?" "Please proceed, Mrs. Andrews answered, and her voice glitched on the C, a little stutter, as if the sound buffer refilled mid-syllable. She didn't seem to hear it. I didn't press anything. Evan didn't either. Somewhere 2 rows back, a key tapped. The room breathed in, low and collective, like we'd all heard the same secret at once. The closet door banged open. It should have been a mop and a bucket. It should have been dusty beakers, goggles and tangled straps, a dented box that said Pasco on the side. Instead, a rectangle of space was wrong in a way my eyes didn't want to admit. The air inside was full of a fog with edges. A blocky silhouette stepped through it, the neon green glow rolling off its shoulders like a tide. He looked simple at first. Classic Roblox avatar, old school, square head the yellow of a toy, default smile stamped on. But his movement betrayed him. He didn't hinge like a puppet. He flowed. The joints didn't click, they glided. Black dot eyes tracked us individually and then together, as if counting not just people but connections. "Hello, class," he said. The sound came like a headset mic piped through a PA system and then warmed by a human throat. Mrs. Andrews' smile froze so hard I could hear the strain of it. She didn't turn. She looked at the whiteboard as if someone were still writing. "Proceed with the module," she said. 2 voices in one, slightly out of sync. Evan leaned toward me. "We're not in a module." "Don't press anything," I whispered. The avatar walked the aisles, leaving tiny green pads that faded in his wake. Where his footfalls landed, the linoleum developed a faint sheen like it had just been rendered. He stopped by Kayla. She flinched. "Participation," he said pleasantly, default smile changing nothing. "We need data." He lifted his hand, and the air made a noise like a USB device being plugged and unplugged at the same time. A menu ribbon unfurled in front of Kayla's face. Build/delete/spawn/test. Her eyes reflected it, for squares of ghostly light. She didn't touch it. The avatar tilted his head. "Consent is optional," he cooed, as if tasting the word, "but recommended for stability." He turned. The room turned with him. The posters crisped into billboards. The whiteboard became a panel so white it hurt, and every desk snapped its corners sharper, as if ashamed of their old softness. Somewhere overhead, the fluorescence synced perfectly, no buzz, no human wobble. The humming under my ribs got louder. Welcome to Classroom Update V10, he announced. We are proud to introduce interactive learning. You will learn with your whole body. You will construct knowledge. You will survive. At the word survive, the floor along the back row shimmered into lava, game orange, bubbling, bright enough to light faces. People screamed. Chairs screeched. The back row jumped forward as one organism, tripping over backpacks. The avatar spread his arms, delighted. Tiny particle effects, glittering squares, rose when he smiled. Evan, I said. We have to go. Door, he said, and we weren't the only ones thinking it. Half the class rushed it. The handle drew itself into a perfect rectangle and sat in the center of the door like a taunt. Kayla reached it first, yanked. The door made the Roblox error sound I'd laughed at 1,000 times and refused to move. The avatar didn't chase. He walked to the teacher desk and set one square hand on it, as if claiming the save point. The module includes a guided obby, collaborative build projects, and a boss assessment at the end. Successful completion will validate the update for wider deployment. He looked straight at me when he said wider. Like hell, Evan muttered. He can't push an update through our school. Technically, I said, throat tight. He already did. The whiteboard brightened and extruded into the room, becoming a platform floating over the lava. Another appeared, and another, forming a path that zigzagged to the back wall. The lava glowed like a happy threat. The avatar clapped his blocky hands, and the sound was a cheerful menu ping. Group 1, he said, pointing at us. His arm bent too smooth. You will demonstrate learning outcomes. Press E to begin. Kayla looked at me, at Evan, then at Mrs. Andrews, and whispered, help. Mrs. Andrews turned at last. Her face peeled. Not skin, not gore, something worse. For a flicker of time, her features flattened into a decal and slid, then reassembled a millimeter off, like a sticker applied and lifted and put down again. Grow, she said, voice layered. Show grit. The avatar's smile never changed, but his eyes focused so hard I felt weight. Press E, he repeated. Evan swore. If I don't press it, he'll. Kayla reached sideways and hit the E key on his Chromebook. The obby pulsed. A timer appeared in the top left of my vision with no device to project it. Just there, 0:30. I gagged a little, dizzy, because it felt like someone had stuck a HUD inside my skull. Run, Evan shouted, and we did. The first platform didn't look far until you were in the air. The heat from the lava rose in a wave that wasn't heat, but the idea of heat pushed hard enough to pass for real. When my sneakers hit the whiteboard rectangle, the surface flexed like a trampoline trying to remember math. Kayla landed beside me, flailing, almost off. I grabbed her wrist, and the contact felt too crisp, like a late-night monitor turned up too bright. Evan hit with his left foot and his right. His right wasn't a foot anymore. From mid-arch down, his sneaker had been replaced by a glossy block, an update spreading up his leg. He swallowed a yell and grinned anyway, because that's who he was. His new foot clunked and stuck like a magnet to the surface. Easy mode, he lied, breathing in hard stutters. Behind us, the avatar watched without watching. Several more stepped from the closet. Copies, but imperfect. One had arms a stud too long. One had a neck in 2 rotations. One had hair that floated like it forgot gravity was a choice. They lined the walls and faced us, default smiles, default patience, heads turning when we did like sunflowers tracking anger. We jumped. The platforms got smaller and farther, because of course they did. The timer didn't reset. It ticked down mercilessly from 30, then went negative. When it hit 00:05, the lava rose, lapping at the underside of the platform I'd just landed on. It was a shiny, innocent flame orange, and it smelled like heated plastic. Kayla froze. I can't. You can't, I said, hating how pep talk I sounded, hating that it worked. Her jaw set. She flung herself forward. Evan followed, his updated foot making a horrible, happy click. We reached the last platform and slammed into the back wall as the timer went 00:12, and the whiteboard platforms winked out under the lava's grin. Outcome achieved, the avatar said, as if giving us a sticker. His blocky finger rotated toward the ceiling. Next phase. The ceiling opened. No hole broke, the ceiling applied. A skylight wrote itself into existence, lines snapping from corner to corner, glass tessellating. Through it, Clouds scrolled in a parallax that made no meteorological sense. The avatar jumped once, springs in his joints, and bounced to the rail. He didn't look back as he vaulted through. Default smile set to the brightness of a sun. Level 2, collaborative build. The classroom sighed and lifted around us, walls elongating, desks stretching into ramps, the door sliding like it remembered being a different asset. We were in a shaft of school that now believed it was an atrium. The rest of the building waited above, listening. Follow or fail, Mrs. Andrews sang. Her voice had split into 3 separate tracks, and none of them belonged to a person. Guys, Evan said, and his Roblox hand, God, his hand, inked with light. A build menu ghosted in the space by his head, and I could see it even without a screen. If I can build, maybe I can unbuild. Careful, Kayla breathed. He wants you to. He squared his shoulders, and I could hear fear in how he breathed, but also something stubborn. That's why he was my best friend. He jabbed at midair with his updated fingers like he could click the world. A blue brick manifested, then another, creating a stare. His face flickered. Not skin, not code, but something between, and for a second I saw the gap before he smoothed it. He wasn't just placing bricks. The world was placing him back. We climbed, because there was no knot. The atrium unfolded into the upstairs hall where the trophy cases were. Except the cases weren't glass anymore. They were translucent panes promising other rooms. A janitor's cart glided by on mine rails that didn't exist before I saw them. Mr. Tomash, our janitor, real, solid, with decades of the building in his shoulders, pushed the cart with a haunted focus and didn't look at us. Mr. T, I called. Don't go that way. He paused, turned. His eyes were his own. Relief hit so hard I almost sat down on a stair made of my friend's terror. Kids, he said, and his voice was a gift. I've seen a lot in this place. Never this. I tried to call out. The phones repeat the dial tone like a song and won't listen. The principal was in the office, and then he wasn't. The walls move. Do you have a plan? Don't touch any floating platforms, Evan said, a little too loud, as if that could cover the fear. And if something asked you to press E, say you forgot your keyboard. Tomash attempted a smile that failed like a small bridge. I can do that. His gaze dropped to Evan's foot, to the hand. He didn't flinch. He nodded once, as if that were a kind of bandage. They're herding us toward the gym. The big one, the main. He jerked his chin. Boss Arena. You kids stick with me. You're the only ones not wholly mesmerized. Why us? Kayla asked. Because you're scared and saying it. He started moving. Fear is a doorstop if you admit it. We went. The school had always been a maze, but now it enjoyed being one. Lockers bulged into arches. Floor tiles retextured as you stepped. The air smelled like melted crayons and hot circuitry. When we reached the top of the stairs, the hall stretched in both directions too far, then snapped back in, embarrassed. We passed Mrs. Parker's art room, but inside, canvases were portals showing other art rooms that weren't ours. One with a beach sky through a window when it was snowing outside. One with a ceiling too low for any adult to stand. Students huddled under a table like it was a boat. They stared at us like we were a rescue no one had ordered. Stay, Tomash told them, soft as aging paint. If it asks you your name, don't say it. Call yourselves we. We is hard to swallow. We turned the corner to the science wing just as a squad of Roblox avatars marched out, carrying lab stools like shields. Their faces smiled, their necks twisted, heads swiveling a degree too smooth, tracking us. The leader wore a cheap paper crown, something someone made for homecoming last year. It sat on his square head as if it belonged there. On his chest floated text, Admin, Beta. Please return to your learning stations. Admin, Beta, chimed. His voice was a beloved streamer's pitch down. Today's outcomes include obedience. Evan lifted his Roblox hand again, and a transparent build grid overlaid the hallway. The avatars froze, just a fraction too long, as if their pathfinding reconsidered. Evan selected delete and stabbed it at a trophy case that was trying very hard to be a lake. The case folded back into glass. The lake whimpered. Admin, Beta, cocked his head. Unauthorized command. The blue outline around Evan's hand pulsed. A small tooltip blinked over his knuckles. Unpaid builder. His new foot clicked in a nervous rhythm. Back off, Evan said, and his voice surprised even him by not breaking. You want our data? Watch us leave. Leaving is a paid feature. Admin, beta, said pleasantly. Would you like to buy premium? Tomasz snorted. Over my mop, he said, then swung said mop like a staff. It smacked admin, beta's knee with a wet whop. The avatar's leg bent, then shadowed, then turned to triangles for a heartbeat before smoothing back. He took a step, recalculated his own walk, and the paper crown slid. Sir, admin, beta, said reproachfully. Assault on an update is a terms of service violation. Report me, Tomasz said, and whacked him again. I realized I was grinning like an idiot. Kayla, too, eyes bright in a way that wasn't hope, but was next to it. And for a moment, the hallway felt like the school again, not because it was safe, but because someone older had decided to stand in front of us. The admin avatars swarmed. Evan shouted, ramp, ramp, and flicked his hand like a conductor. A bright blue ramp slammed into existence, cutting a wedge between us and the avatars. They hit it and skidded, grins unchanged but patience tested. Tomasz pushed us along the baseboards while their pathfinding argued, mop whistling dangerously close to fluorescent fixtures. We made it to the double doors to the main gym. They'd always been heavy. Today they were weightless until you touched them, then heavier than sin. We shoved, and they decided to open. Inside, the bleachers had been pulled out on their own, rising like a cliff. The basketball hoops hung limp and then rotated until they pointed at center court, Halo's daring sinners. The gym floor had been replaced with a boss arena. A perfect circle pulsed, bleeding color, spawn red to sky blue to a creepy birthday yellow. Around the circle, dozens, maybe 100, students, teachers, staff. Some had Roblox replacements, hands, feet, an eye that glinted too clean. Some were normal in that broken way crowds are. The principal stood on the far side, tie gone, shirt untucked, phone pressed to his face like prayer. His mouth moved. No sound came. The scoreboard counted down from 10 o'clock without any team names. Above it, a banner hung that read, Apply Patch, Y/N. At the edge of the circle stood the avatar from our classroom. He had a new accessory, a clipboard with nothing on it. His smile was unchanged but brighter, which I didn't know could be a threat until now. Welcome to the assessment, he said. Completion validates district-wide deployment. His eyes found me. Don't worry. You've already demonstrated grit. Bite me, Evan said, too loud, because he's Evan. Laughter bubbled in the hush, frantic, human. A second avatar stepped from a shadow that wasn't a shadow. This one wore a sash, Maud. She looked the same until she didn't. When she turned, her face slid a half-inch across her head and clicked back. She held a megaphone that swallowed sound like a black hole devours light. When she raised it, our laughs died mid-breath. The assessment consists of 3 tasks, she intoned. 1. Construct a bridge from what you know. 2. Delete what you don't. 3. Choose whether to apply the patch. Choose, Kayla whispered. We get a choice? That hurt, the way she said it. Like school doesn't usually mean that word. The avatar with the clipboard gestured grandly, and the center circle birthed blue bricks from nothing, enough for 10 bridges. Students grabbed at them instinctively. Hives of kids formed around the bricks like ants around dropped candy. People began to build, hurried, competitive, terrified. Evan watched, eyes narrowed. They're not bridges, he said. They're data funnels. What does that mean? I asked. Everything they build tells it how we think, how we solve. It's not asking for the right bridge. It's asking for our minds. He flexed his Roblox fingers, then clenched them like he could crush the menu. Then we jam it survey, Tomasz said. We build wrong. Wrong but right, I said. Wrong on purpose, so it still looks like success. We grabbed bricks. Their weight was nothing until you decided to place them, and then it dragged. I stacked mine in a zigzag, wrong angle, correct math. Evan built a ramp that became stairs, then a maze that looked like a letter if you were in the rafters. Kayla made a beautiful arch that had no arch math whatsoever, but it held because she believed it should. Other kids built Minecraft Y lines, Fortnite assault cover, IKEA instructions somehow made into bridges. The avatars walked among us, clipboard avatar checking boxes that didn't exist. Maud watched without blinking, megaphone swallowing whispers. We finished. 10 bridges spanned the circle. The scoreboard ticked to 5 o'clock. Now, Maud said, delete what you don't know. What? I said. She smiled. and her teeth were white chalk lines that hurt to look at. Delete your wrong answers. Delete your fear. Delete your hesitation. Delete each other if need be. She tilted the megaphone at us. Delete. A delete cursor appeared in my peripheral vision like a fly. If I focused on it, it drifted away. If I ignored it, it hovered near Kayla's arch. She put her hands behind her back like a kid in a museum. No, she said. Maud tilted her head. You must. Evan's hand pulsed, and the tool tip over his knuckles blinked. Unpaid builder. Upgrade? He swore softly. They want me to buy in. Tomasz leaned his mop like a walking stick and said, Kids, if we delete the wrong parts on purpose, we delete nothing. We make a big gesture at the air and leave what matters. He stabbed at the empty space above his own bridge. The delete cursor spun. Nothing vanished. He winked. We followed. A dance of deletion that removed nothing. The avatars tilted their heads in unison, like dogs hearing a far siren. The clipboard avatar checked a box twice, then again, like a printer spitting out the same sheet. The scoreboard hit 1 o'clock. Final task, the first avatar said, voice bright as a casino. Apply patch. The banner flickered. The Y pulsed. The N sulked. No, Principal Vegas said, and for the first time his voice came through his own throat. He pushed forward. Ty Askew, hair never to be the same. We do not consent to software that enters our rooms without invitation. Maud raised the megaphone. The words wrapped around it and fell dead. She said, patch requires a quorum. Quorum of who? Vega demanded. You? The children? The walls? Of players, the clipboard avatar said, pleased. He turned to us. Press E to vote. My thumb itched. There was no E key in my hand, but the muscle memory ached for it anyway. Don't, Kayla said. Don't. Wait, Evan said, and his voice had that dangerous calm he used when he beat impossible levels on his third try. What happens if the update applies? Improved engagement, the avatar chirped. Reduced teacher workload. Eliminated boredom. Seamless integration between play and life. And if it fails? I asked. The smile didn't change. Rollback. Something in my chest went cold. A rollback to what? To a restore point. Which is where? I pressed. Before, Maud said, and the word fell like a brick through a window. The scoreboard screamed 010. The Y/UI brightened. The avatars leaned forward like flowers to sun. The students murmured. Some were nodding, too fast, not thinking. Some were crying, not for themselves. The Bridgewoods groaned. Don't vote, I said, and hated being earnest with my whole face. He can't do quorum if we don't touch it. Quorum is present players, Maud corrected gently. Participation is consent. They had us. The patch didn't need yes, it needed us here. It needed school to be a place where showing up means you agree. I did the only stupid thing left. I left. Not the building, the level. I stepped off the boss circle and into the part of the gym the avatars were ignoring. The unrendered bleachers underbelly, the shadow where dust lives. The moment my foot hit that shadow, the world hiccuped. The scoreboard stuttered. The banner glitched to apply patch. Y/ and froze. Hey, admin, beta, shrilled from nowhere. Stay in bounds. In what? I called. Your classroom? Your game? Your patch notes? I'm in school, man. School includes under the bleachers. Other kids saw me and peeled off, each one stepping sideways into the ugly space that hadn't been smoothed for a brochure. Kayla ducked under a row with a sound that might have been a laugh if you liked knife edges. Evan clomped. His Roblox foot hated the dust. The dust loved him anyway. Tomasz went last, steady, as if he'd always belonged in the places you're not supposed to see. The avatars wavered, actually wavered, like heat over asphalt. Maud lifted the megaphone, and it squealed feedback into its own mouth. The clipboard avatar shuffled his papers that weren't and blinked. Once, twice, like someone had sown doubt inside a computer. The scoreboard fell to 003 and stopped. Silence. Then, from above, somewhere in the rafters, a voice that was too familiar for comfort and too wrong to be mine whispered, "Press E to exit." Evan's head snapped up. "You hear that?" Kayla nodded. "It's you." "No," I said. "It knows my voice from class. It recorded me. It wants me to press. That's not exit. That's apply." "Are you sure?" asked a small voice near my knee. A sixth grader, cheeks streaked, eyes old. He'd crawled under with us and pressed his palms into the dust like it could bless him. Because I want to go home. I swallowed. I did too, with a ferocity that dented my ribs. Tomasz put his big, worn hand on the kid's head and didn't move it because you don't need to move a blessing. We will. First we close the hole they used to get in here. How? I asked. Doors are theirs. Screens are theirs. The PA is theirs. Not everything, he said. He pointed up, under the bleachers to where the gym wall met the floor, an ugly seam of late-night repairs, blue painter's tape still clinging to a patch job someone forgot to remove. That's mine. Blue tape. Something in my spine lit. I'd heard a rule once, in a different terrible night, and the words came back like a friend's name you'd been too proud to admit you needed. I crawled to the seam. The tape was dusty, frayed, blessedly human. I pressed my palm to it. The blue line is a boundary and not a door, I said, throat raw. It notices names and doesn't repeat them unless invited. It isn't a story. It won't entertain you. It will warn you. The gym shivered like a person trying not to cry in public and failing for a second in a good way. The avatars faltered. Maud lowered the megaphone and listened for a beat she didn't own. The scoreboard's frozen 0:03 ticked, became 0:02, then sighed back to 0:03 as if stuck between fates. Say it. I begged, and the begging was not weakness, it was honest. Everybody, please. Kayla said it, voice shaking but clear. Evan said it, and his Roblox hands glowed dim to something less eager. Tomasz said it with the practiced patience of a man who's convinced 1,000 messes to become clean. The sixth grader said it like a magic spell. The words filled the under-bleacher belly of the room, then crawled out and up, hunting surfaces. Blue tape bloomed where none had been, thin seams appearing at doors, over smartboards, along the rims of trophy cases. Not visible to the avatars at first because they don't look at edges. Visible to us because we live there. The clipboard avatar took one step back. The update respects rules, he said, and for the first time there was less confidence under the syrup. We can incorporate this boundary into a no. Principal Vegas said, louder than he had any right to be without a mic. He climbed onto the lowest bleacher with the same knees he'd taken to district meetings for decades and spread his arms like a church balancing a storm. You don't incorporate what isn't yours. You ask permission. He met my eyes, mine, specifically, and nodded once. It felt like being made a teacher against my will and in exactly the right moment. Okay, I said. I looked at the banner, at apply patch. Y/N. The N flickered like a moth. Okay. I crawled out from under. The air tasted like a socket. Maud swung the megaphone toward me, and the blue tape on its handle, where someone had once marked it to differentiate it from the bands, flashed bright, its color deciding itself. Maud's mouth opened, and nothing came out. The clipboard avatar trembled like a stack of papers in AC. I walked to center court, to the circle that had wanted to be a mouth. It tried to warp away from my feet and failed because the tape around its edge had decided to be a ring. I tilted my face up to the banner and screamed with all the authority a scared kid could manage. N-O. It heard me. The N flared. The Y shrank like a punctured lung. The scoreboard coughed, restarted from 10 o'clock, and died with dignity. The gym lights flickered, then went honest. The Roblox avatars shivered, their edges going fuzzy like they'd been photocopied one time too many. The clipboard dissolved last, the board falling through his hand like water before he evaporated into square confetti that didn't hit the floor. For a glorious, fragile minute, we were just a gym full of people in a school that had survived something no school should have to. Kids cried. Teachers cried. Tomasz leaned into his mop handle and didn't. Vegas sat on the bleacher with the posture of a man who won't until later. Something laughed. It came from the supply closet doors under the varsity banners. Not the cheerful ping, not the streamer voice. A low, granular laugh, like someone put coins in a blender and made a soundtrack. A different avatar stepped out, no default smile. No face at all. A void where a face should be with a shine like glass in it. On its chest floated text none of us wanted to see. Rollback Manager. Oh no, Kayla whispered. No, no, no. Patch failed, the manager said. Its voice was a chorus of dial-up tones and prayer whispers. Rollback initiating. Returning to restore point. Before. The gym floor slid under my feet. Not physically. The idea of floor changed. The blue tape dimmed, then fought, brightened, held, dimmed again. Phones vibrated with no notifications. The megaphone made a noise like a modem. The scoreboard lit itself with the word loading, and we all understood we weren't safe yet. We'd only negotiated with one part of the beast while the other took notes. Grab the tape, Tomasz barked, and a dozen hands obeyed. Lines, doors, screens, mirrors. Speak the rule like it's the lyrics to your favorite song. We ran. Evan limped run, his foot clicking. Kayla dragged the sixth grader like a kite. Vega shouted the rule like he'd been born to it. Blue stripes appeared like veins. The Rollback Manager watched, and the shine where its face should have been showed us our own faces, distorted in square puddles. Return, it said, calm as a calendar. Erase changes. Undo learning. Before. What before? I yelled back, and then softer to myself, to the tape under my hand as I slapped it along the scoreboard's post. We're not going back. The gym lurched. The lights went off, on, off. In that black, I felt the thumb of a hand made of angles pressed gently on my forehead like a priest. I thought of the before it wanted, before fear, before grit, before we learned we could say no and make it stick. It would take our lesson to teach itself how to own us. And oh, I said again, not at the banner this time, not at the room, but at the cold in my own head that craved the easy reassurance of undone. No rollback. The manager tilted. Its glass face caught the blue from the tape and bent it into ugly colors. Vote not recognized. It murmured. Administrator only. Tomasz stepped between me and it, mop braced like a pike. Then you'll have to go through me. Accepted, said the manager, and reached. Its arm was a pain. It slid toward him, and the blue on the mop handle, the same stupid strip people put on everything they share, flared. The pain hit the tape and hissed like water on a skillet. The arm jerked back, confused, like no one had told it no could be a substance. It tried again. All around us, the school groaned. Doors slammed themselves. Lockers yawned and bit. In the art room, a canvas caught fire without flame and painted a blue line across itself to live. In the cafeteria, spoons skittered into circles. In the office, phones rang quietly to each other like crickets. Kids, Vegas said, voice steady, planless, brave. Choose. We can't freeze. Pick a thing and make it true. We anchor the rule, Kayla said. We make it the patch. We apply that. How? Evan asked, panicked laugh leaking through. You got a yes/no for that. I did the only thing that felt like us. I jumped to the scorer's table, grabbed the mic that had always cut out during pep rallies, and hoped its failings meant it wasn't owned yet. I pressed the switch. It made a sound like a dying bee. Electricity crawled up my arm and asked for my story. Students of, I said our school's name out loud like it was a spell, like it needed someone to acknowledge it exists offline. Teachers, staff, we are the quorum. We are not widgets. The blue line is a boundary and not a door. My voice boomed out of speakers that squealed, then steadied, then became their real selves again, the ones that are bad at rap but good at assemblies. The manager flinched. The avatars, it had friends, it always is friends, shook like dogs in rain. The scoreboard replaced loading with. The banner tore itself down because it didn't want to show a question. Say it. I begged into the mic I didn't deserve. Now. They did. We did. The rule rolled through the gym like a physical thing, like a gust that flips pages. The blue tape on the scoreboard stanchion went from dusty painter's helper to a perfect hue the eye loves. The blue around the megaphone's handle sang. The strip on Tomasz's mop glowed like it had wanted to all along. The manager's glass face crazed, hairline cracks like frost. Patch rejected. It intoned through broken tones. Rollback contested. Good. I said, hoarse, shaking, beyond caring if I sounded cool. Contest this. It looked at me with its no face like it was learning my name without vowels. Your session is flagged, it whispered. You will persist across updates. It lifted one pain hand and tapped the air. A gentle click rang in the back of my skull, like the first night, the knock from the wall. I staggered. What did it do? Evan shouted, catching my arm. Marked me. I said, laughing because not laughing would crack me. I think it favorited me. The manager stepped back into the closet space that wasn't, and, for a moment, I thought it would vanish like the rest, a bad dream folding itself into daytime. It paused, glass face reflecting us in stupid little squares we'd created by just being here, and spoke one more thing in a voice that came from the old CRT in the AV closet. Apply later? The banner above the court, torn and ashamed, tried to stitch itself with pixels into a question mark. The gym lights went honest again and stayed. The lava that had pretended to be under the floor gave up its costume. The bridges of blue brick fell apart into innocent props the theater department would kill for. The avatars became confetti, then dust, then nothing, except for a faint smell of warm plastic we'd all recognize in our sleep forever. Maud's megaphone dropped with a thunk. The blue tape on its handle stayed. Silence. The terrible, blessed, afternoise silence of a thing that didn't kill you on a Tuesday afternoon in the gym when you just wanted to get to last period. Someone sobbed. Someone laughed. Someone said, "I'm calling my mom," like a victory. The sixth grader had dust all over his cheeks and a smile like he'd remembered something big and simple, that adults can be brave. I stepped down from the table. My hands shook. My knees bitched. Evan bumped my shoulder with his. "Dude," he said, "that was so dumb." So dumb. I agreed, and we grinned like poor fools who'd found a kind of currency. Kayla touched my wrist, gentle. "You heard the last part." I nodded, throat closing. "Yeah. Apply later," Tomasz said. He looked up at the place where the banner had been and swung his mop onto his shoulder like a flag. "They always try later." Principal Vegas stood. He didn't give a speech. He put his hand on my shoulder, then Evan's, then Kayla's, then Tomasz's, and said, simply, "We stay together. We document. We change locks. We keep tape." Phones buzzed with life again. Screens showed normal apps like Polite Citizens. In the corner of mine, a new folder had appeared with a name I didn't care to open, pending /. I put the phone face down and covered it with my hand like a candle. We filed out. The hallway looked like itself again, but we had learned to see seams, and they were everywhere. Blue lines along trophy cases, under clocks, on the rims of windows. Kids touched them like mezuzahs. Teachers did, too. In the art room, canvases leaned back into patience. In the office, the phones rang in normal human ways, and a secretary said hello 3 times like she meant it. When we reached room 214, the closet door was closed. A sliver of green light tried to remember how to be. The blue tape I slapped across the jam before I left for home wasn't pretty, but it was ours. I said the rule, and the line settled like a cat chose my lap. At home that night, dinner tasted like food. My mom asked about my day, and I said, "It was weird," and she said, "School is always weird," and we both pretended we were talking about normal things. Later, in my room, I turned my monitor off and listened to the wall. I heard nothing. I slept with my hand on my phone and dreamed of gym floors and blue lines that didn't end. At 3:03 a.m., my phone buzzed once. No notification, just the buzz, polite and expectant. I didn't pick it up. I whispered the rule to the strip of tape on my headboard, and the room agreed to be a room. When I woke, a new banner hung inside my eyes, in a corner where you only notice under certain light. The font was soft and stupidly cheerful. Apply later? Y/N. It faded when I blinked. It will be back. I left for school early. The sky looked old in a good way. Evan met me at the corner, his Roblox hand gloved, his foot taped at the cuff of his jeans like an ankle brace. He wiggled his fingers at me like jazz hands. "It's staying," he said without preamble. "The update. Parts of it." "Yeah. You think you'll get flagged next time?" "I think we all did," I said, and it didn't feel like a doom so much as a job. "So we write the patch notes. Ours." He grinned, tired and bright. Rule 1. I tugged the blue tape in my pocket and handed him half the roll. We walked the last block with it warm in our palms like a secret. "The blue line is a boundary and not a door," I said. "And rule 2, Kayla said from behind us, surprising us both, her eyes less haunted than yesterday, but sharper, which is different. She held up a marker, the permanent kind, like a sword that draws itself. "We do not press E just because it's there." We turned the corner and saw our school. It looked like itself. Then the sun hit the windows, and I saw lines bloom along their edges like veins waking up. A little laugh escaped me the way air escapes a drum. "Ready?" Evan asked. "No," I said honestly. "But we'll go anyway." We crossed the street with our tape and our rules and the memory of lava heat that never was. And when I put my palm to the blue line on the front door, it warmed under my skin like it recognized me. From somewhere very far and too close, polite as a reminder, the system whispered with a voice that wasn't mine and was. Apply later? The door pushed back. We pushed harder.